The reality is that I was telling these people, if you really care so much about the poor people, when the poor really feel miserable, it's in the leisure time. When people are working, whether the minimum wage person cleaning the floors or the president of the bank, they have pretty much the same time. The president of the bank these days might have even more anxiety. But when the free time, the president of the bank has restaurants and theaters and cottages and trips and so on. The poor people don't have any options. So then improving the use of the leisure time, improving quality of life. So this is why it's so important to improve the parks and the open spaces. And these are some of the images of what we did in this park that is 360 hectares in the middle of the city. And we created the summer festival, bringing activities that usually don't take place in the parks, in the public places. And it's making multi-use, the velodrome, but also having skating and other kinds of facilities. Also partnering with others. Here we're going to do a parking lot. The Commissioner on Education needed to do a library. So we said, why don't you do the library with an underground parking? So we ended up with a beautiful library and an underground parking, and the community got the 2-in-1. So these are the kind of things, and it's uses and activities, bringing kite flyers and getting people, linear parks. This is another kind of park that we do a lot. I love linear parks because you connect high income and low income. You connect commercial and residential. For example, this is a park that goes 21 kilometers across the city, starts in a very wealthy area where there's a lot of flower shops and stores and always separating cyclists and pedestrians. And then this is where it ended. This is before and this is after, in one of the poorest areas of the city. So it's interconnecting. Once again, making the connection of some of the poorest with some of the wealthiest in the city. And it's interesting. But then let me turn to a third topic. The role of the streets. What is the role of the streets in the city? Because the reality is that when we take a look at cities from the air, the streets are probably the biggest public space in any city. And nevertheless, sometimes we think they're just for moving cars. We got to think, are we building roads, especially when the cities are growing and we're building new areas of the cities, are we building streets for cars or streets for people? Do we want to have 4-story parking lots that work like a vacuum that sucks the life out of the city? Or we put commercial in the first floor and then parking in the second, third, and fourth? Would we want to live in a place where the streets look at car storage, or do we prefer to have a place where the streets help create community? These places turn in parking into wonderful people places. At some point, even in Denmark in the 1970s, the cars were taking over and they paved over a river. What makes more economic vibrancy? This, or 10 years ago, they remember that there was a river that was going underground. They brought it out. And look at this beautiful linear park that they built. So this is what we're talking about. And with Gil Architects, I'm senior consultant with them. We say, the traditional planning is having a department thinking of the trees, another one the cars, another one the buildings. But we got to go into more holistic and people-oriented. And then, so thinking about the streets, I'm going to tell you something that could be done in any city around the world. That is a 7-hour-a-week park. This is a paved park. When I became commissioner, what is the ciclovia? The ciclovia is that on Sundays, we take the cars out, we open the streets to the people, and we close them to the cars in some of the main streets of the city. We use the existing infrastructure. In a moment of economic crisis, this is perfect because you don't have to build arenas or gymnasiums. You use the existing infrastructure. When I became commissioner in 95, we had 13 kilometers. Now we have 121 kilometers. And we get 1.5 million people coming out every Sunday of the year to walk and bike and skate, rich and poor, young and old, all kinds of people that enjoy watching other people. And it's not only about walking or cycling along the road. The parks are interconnected, and in the parks we have aerobics, and in the parks we have all kinds of other activities so that people can actually participate and engage. And it's something that is really, really wonderful, and it's not very expensive. It can be done anywhere. And actually, in the last 2 years, cities like New York set something up. We provided them the advice. They did a wonderful on Park Avenue. Portland has also a wonderful, also within the last 2 years. Mexico City, Mexico has one of the ways to combat, Madison, Wisconsin. Even places like Paris. In Paris, they had the wonderful Paris Plage, but now they got every Sunday of the year, they're doing this in some of the roads. Winnipeg, even they got their winter ciclovia. So these are some of the things that we gotta become innovative to be more sustainable in a moment of economic crisis. And actually, with the World Health Organization, this Sunday was celebrated 1,000 lives, 1,000 cities to create similar programs all around the world. And actually, 1,392 cities committed themselves and celebrated the World Health Day this Sunday, including here in Melbourne. And as part of that, 3 weeks ago, we did an international seminar in Guadalajara, where Guadalajara has a wonderful ciclovia, and we brought people from Atlanta, Miami, Washington, Portland, Vancouver, so many other cities, because this is something that works in big cities, in small cities, in rich and poor, and so on. And it's wonderful, and it's a way to link so that people also don't just go to the park that they always go every week, but all of a sudden they open the streets to the people, and they walk or bike to a different park, and they use other parks, and it's something very, very good. I'm talking about also building alliances, but in the process of building alliances with the environmental people and public health and economic and the business community and so on, we gotta also maintain the message, the core message. So we gotta really build those broad alliances, but talk about, for example, we gotta talk about those concepts that parks are important, what makes a park great, what makes a park system great, and also we gotta tell people, okay, parks are important because there are emotional reasons and there are quantifiable reasons. The emotional ones are similar, so to provide happiness. I know happiness is hard to define and almost impossible to measure, but nevertheless, it's our goal in life. They strengthen communities. When we go to the small neighborhood park, that's where we meet the parents of our of the friends of our kids. They improve safety. They also are wonderful equalizers. You go to a park, some people have an original Nike, some people have a fake Nike. Both have as much fun. But there are also quantifiable reasons. They increase the property value, they are good for tourism and economic activity, they improve the health, and they also improve the environment. And then, but what makes a park great? Also, we gotta remember people in the process, and I'm just gonna go very fast because I know that all of you are really into this issue of parks, so I'm gonna jump into the other one. One, we gotta have sufficient resources. You know, there is no magic. Here, there are no magicians. So we need financial, we need human, and we need physical resources. We need safety. Safety in the parks, and the best thing for safety in the parks is to have people. When they are empty, then you need a lot of police. When they are well used, then they are very, very safe. We need them to have a good fit with the city system. We also need good management. Management is very, very important. I think successful parks, maybe a third of it is design and construction. 2/3 is management. And management is not just picking up the garbage. No, that's maybe 20% of it is picking up the garbage and security and so on. It's the community engagement, is getting the community, the neighbors, the universities, making links with the hospitals, with the boards of education and so on. Uses and activity are so important. You go to the parks, for example, this one in Chicago, in one photo, you got people doing 10 different things, walking and cycling and skating and playing chess and reading and doing all. So uses and activities is very, very important in order to have success. But when people ask you, you know, what's a great park? What's the best park in Melbourne? I don't think there is one best park, but it's a park system, because we need small and medium and large and so on. For example, a park systems. We need to have a shared vision. You know, in our city, what is the shared vision of the park system? Second, we need to work on the management. The management is very, very important. Leadership. Nothing happens without leadership. We need hundreds of leaders all over the place. We need community engagement. We need to go out and get the community to participate before, during, and after when we do the parks. We need sufficient land. But land is not only land, but it's also land well distributed. For example, in LA, I have an MBA from Los Angeles, so I know the city pretty well. They have a lot of parkland, but all of it is in one side of the city. And as we can see, 2 out of every 3 kids in LA do not have access to a park within walking distance. So it's not just having a lot of land, but it's having it very, very well distributed. We need quantity and quality. We need active and passive and contemplative uses. We need good access geographically, physical, and financial. So, and we need to have stable funding. You know, it's wonderful to get private sector money. It's wonderful to get donations. It's wonderful to get concessions, but we need tax dollars. You know, the politicians gotta be aware that this is a general interest, and we gotta make the case for it. Also, we need social management. We need efficient management. It's not running it like a business. 9 out of 10 new businesses go broke, so it's not running parks like a business. It's running parks in an efficient way, as something that is for the public sector and for the benefit of all the population. And we're gonna have benefits that go beyond the parks. So whenever all of a sudden we gotta take away some houses and build a park, we are gonna redevelop the zone, so the benefits have to go beyond. And the last one is, the parks, it's a process of continuous improvement.